So today we'll be doing an introduction to Globus. Before we begin, I would like just do a quick land acknowledgement. UBC Point Grey campus is located on the traditional ancestral and unceded territory of the Musqueam people, and the Okanagan campus lies on the unceded territory of the Selix peoples. So for this talk, we'll do an overview of what Globus is, what it can do, how it can help facilitate your research, and we'll then transition to, I'll pass it over to my colleague Ben, who will provide a demo of, in practice, what Globus can do. So what is Globus? Globus is used for helping researchers move, share, or discover data with one single interface, one platform, one tool. It's usually used with high performance computing cluster, the commercial cloud, or even your workstation. So why use Globus? Some of the benefits includes you can initiate data transfers and leave it doing the transfer until the transfer is completed. So this is very helpful if you're transferring terabytes and terabytes of data, so you don't need to sit in front of your computer or sit while you're transferring data from one high performance computing cluster to another, or from your workstation to the cluster before your analysis. Another benefit includes how it can react to network interruptions. This is very helpful, especially when you're transferring, again, large amounts of data. Network can become unstable for various reasons, but Globus has the capability of restarting where it left off. It knows where it left off, and when network resumes, it can then continue and then continue the data transfer without you having to interact with it. So that goes along with the leaving and then monitoring. Maintains data integrity. So data is transferred. It also checks that when the data transfer is completed, that the data that actually gets transferred to the destination is exactly the same as what it was before it was transferred. Another benefit of using Globus is the use of institutional accounts. So it does not require you to have another set of accounts for this platform. You can use your own account from your own institution, whether it's a university, whether it's the Digital Research Alliance of Canada. You can use those accounts to log in, which is also very helpful when you're sharing data with your colleagues and collaborators, because then you don't have the need to either sponsor them accounts at your institution or anything like that. You can share with them based using their own institution's accounts. And last but not least, the data transfer between the source and the destination are encrypted, so that helps maintain the security of your workflow. Speaking of which, security. So as I mentioned, during the data transfer, it is encrypted, so no one can see, even if they try to see what the data is being transferred. Another aspect that relates to the identities that I just mentioned about you having the ability to use your own accounts at your own institution is that these accounts are then managed by your own institution. So any security capability, including multi-factor authentication that is available or implemented at your university or your institution, will also be available through Globus. So then they can take advantage of all that security features. Another aspect, and it could be, is that data remains as the institution. So data does not get transferred to an entity, a Globus entity. It basically is where you had initially stored your data and where you're transferring to. Those are the only two places where the data will be located. It does not have an intermediate step of storing it elsewhere at other institution, other organization, or Globus themselves. There is no intermediate step in that case. Integrity checks, we mentioned it before, so that helps with the security so that nothing has changed of the data, and the high availability and redundancy. So we sort of touched on this earlier. What are some common use cases? Why we use Globus in your research workflow? Some common use cases we've seen include transferring data from your workstation or your computer or a lab uh, workstation to the high performance computing cluster. So this includes if you are collecting data from other instruments or anything like that. They initially were on your computer or your file server or anything like that, and you're able to transfer it to a high performance computing cluster. So that is um, to do your analysis. Another common use case is transferring between two storage solutions. So this could be between two high performance computing clusters or a pure storage solution or platform to analysis. So this could be another specific example to this is if you have data stored for more archival but you need to bring it back for further analysis, you can transfer it with Globus. Another use case is backup and replicating research data. So and we can show more of that during the demo, but basically you can have two storage solution, and then you can have sort of set up a schedule of backing up your data from storage A to storage B, and it can facilitate that with Globus. And last but not least is sharing research data with collaborators. So besides that, you yourself or your lab can transfer data back and forth between all the different resources that you have access to, but you can also share with your collaborators or other people in your community using the shared features within Globus. So we mentioned all the great things about Globus, how you can use it in research. Well, how do you interact with this tool? So the most common interface or the most common way to interact with this platform and tool is through the web interface. So you can this will be shown during the demo as well. So you can use your preferred web browser. So that's Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or anything like that, and you can interface with it and interact with it. No need to install any software or anything like that. Command line interface, so if you're comfortable with the command line, you can use that, or application programming interface. So a very common use of that is if you're building scientific tools that leverage this data transfer capability, you can leverage the application programming interface. So we mentioned that about the different storage solution or high performance computing clusters. So I just want to highlight some of the destinations, or in Globus, we'll call these endpoints. So they could be where the data is initially stored or where they would go, destination. So the Digital Research Alliance of Canada has endpoints or source or destination of these data transfer at all of their high performance computing clusters, such as Beluga, Cedar, and Grail. And also, as of the last couple months, it's also available for the Arbutus Cloud object storage. So that is the community cloud or the cloud platform of the Digital Research Alliance of Canada. You can also transfer data back and forth from the Arbutus object storage. Another example is at the University of British Columbia. We have an endpoint at our high performance computing cluster and also our object storage solution. And this is an example of where to kind of showcase this list of endpoints of different institutions, I'm trying to show that you can transfer data back and forth between institutions using Globus. And something to point out here regarding identity is that you may be logging in a different identity. So with Digital Research Alliance of Canada, you're likely logging in your Alliance credentials or your CCDB account. With your university resources, you're likely logging in your university account, but you can still do data transfer between the two because Globus has the capability of consolidating all your accounts into one. Globus Connect Personal. So this is to help with the use case that we mentioned before of transferring data to and from a workstation or computer. So we mentioned there's endpoints at the various institution clusters or storage but you can also create an endpoint on your workstation. And you do that by installing something called Globus Connect Personal. So this software is available for both for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And once you install it, there's an endpoint on your workstation that you can transfer data to and from your computer to any of the other endpoints. However, if you would like to transfer data between two computers or two workstations, or share data from that's sitting in your workstation and use the share capability of Globus, you'll need something called Globus subscription group. It was previously called Globus. You may have heard it called Globus Plus. So you need that enabled on your account for you to have those capabilities. And we'll have links to how you could request for that at the end of the presentation, but it all depends on how each institution handles it. So as an example, the Digital Research Alliance of Canada would request that you email them to their support email address, which I'll have at the end of the presentation. So Globus Connect Personal, not only can you share share from your workstation or transfer data to and from your workstation, there's also the high assurance capability that could be enabled. Although this requires that your institution has the level of subscription. If you're unsure about that, you can contact your individual institution or the Alliance for further clarification on that. But basically, if you do have high insurance, you could have the capability of enforcing that the user you're sharing with can only use the login of your institution. So it reduces the type of accounts that can be used to authenticate, and also enforces encryption. So I mentioned the data encryption is previously I mentioned data encryption is available through Globus, so it keeps the data secure. It is enabled by default, but it can be disabled. We don't recommend it or encourage it, but high insurance enforces it so that users cannot disable it. So you can also enforce encryption. So even without high insurance, you can enforce encryption, and you can do that through the web interface, and list these steps there. Basically, you edit the attribute of that endpoint. And something to know, it's a common misunderstanding in terms of where these files are sitting when you see them through the Globus. So if you see the data or files through the Globus interface that is on, for example, from your endpoint on your workstation, bear in mind that they are physically sitting on your workstation. So if you delete it through Globus, it will also be deleted on your workstation. So make sure that if you are deleting it, that's what you're intending to do. Quickly, Globus Connect Server, it's like Globus Connect Personal, but it's for servers. So if you run a lab server or anything like that, you can make use of that. The software is a little bit more complex to set up. It's intended for a systems and administrator to set up, but you can contact your institution if that's something of interest. Globus sharing. So with Globus, we mentioned that you could share your data through Globus by creating something called guest collections. So you can basically set up a guest collection at the individual folder level where you want to share the data within that folder to your collaborators and partners or your research community. And you can grant these people read-only access or read and write access or even public access. So you have publicly accessible data that's intended for the public that anyone can access. You can make it also public, so you don't need to individually add them to these guest collections. Something to also know that there's the concept of groups to help you better manage the users. So if you're adding and removing like tens and hundreds of users, sometimes groups will help you better manage these. Something for Globus sharing, so it is a feature of Globus, but it may not be available for all endpoints. So for example, the Alliance clusters, it is available by default on your home directory. For project, it's not enabled by default, but you can contact Globus at tech.alliancecan.ca to have your project folder sharing enabled. The exception is Niagara that you cannot share from the Niagara cluster. Another example is the UBC HPC high performance computing cluster. You can share from a project in Scratch. So that's the end of the overview of Globus, and I see there's a hand. Maybe I'll maybe pass it to Ben for the demo, and then we'll answer all the questions at the end of the session.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, so I'm
Awesome, sure.
gonna give a demo on how Globus works. A lot of talk on the slides might be a bit confusing, but actually Globus is pretty easy to use. And yeah, hopefully maybe some of your questions might be answered while I'm giving the demonstration here. So I'm going to share my screen. Here you go. So looks like that it's shared. Um, so yeah, to start, you would go to, so the first thing I'm going to start with is the web interface. It's the easiest way for you to transfer file and do a lot of the Globus related work. The website is globus.org, www.globus.org. And so I'm going to try to log in here. And as we were mentioning in the slides, you can use your existing organization identity to log in. UBC, for example, you can just do a search for University of British Columbia. Maybe typing British Columbia is easier. And you can also use your Alliance Digital Research Alliance. I'll show you exactly. So once you choose your organizational login, if it's part of Globus, when you click on continue, you see that it brings you to the authentication screen. And it will go through with the two-factor if it has it. You can also, if you're not part of any campus or research community, you can actually log in with your GitHub or your Google regular Google account. You just probably won't have access to any collections or endpoints unless someone have granted you that. But like if you have a student that isn't part of, or if you have a contractor or something, you can actually grant them access. If they have a GitHub account using the sharing, provided your organization has a subscription to Globus. But I will start with logging in to UBC because that's what I use the most. So British Columbia. Oops. As you can see, it will take me to the UBC site, and it's going to prompt me for a two-factor. I'm using private browsing on my Firefox, so it'll prompt me for more of this stuff so things are not saved in cookies and such. That's why I'm using the private browsing thing. When you log in to Globus, you generally put it into the file manager. You would start with a single panel, which doesn't make too much sense. You probably most likely will be wanting to switch to the two panel because a lot of times you're just transferring files from one endpoint to another. But before I go too much into that, under setting, we did mention that you can link identities between your organization. So this is where it's shown under settings, accounts. So as you can see, I have my UBC one here, and I have my Compute Canada. That's my Compute Canada database, CCDB. Yeah, you can link, if you have SFU or if you have other universities, you can link extra identities to it. Basically, you would have to authenticate. It would ask you to authenticate to that identity with a two-factor, and it will link to it. And once you have them linked, the advantage is you can access collections or shares that from each of those identity in the same interface. You might still get prompted to put in a password here once in a while, but It does make it easier. You can see a lot of things in one place. And also, I think if you no longer say if I no longer have an account to Compute Canada, you can still see some of the shares as if they're linked between collections. Um, so now going back to File Manager. So I mean, sometimes I'm like source and destination doesn't really make sense because both sides you can transfer files from one side to another. As I'm trying to point to the screen with my finger, it's not really working that way. You would start by searching for a collection here. This is the screen. You can type in. So if you know the name of the collection. So for everything at so there's a Globus training sandbox or sorry Globus training tutorial that anyone should have access to. Just type it in, it'll come up here. It's a simple search, or if you know the name of the like Compute Canada, a lot of the Compute Canada resources are under Compute Canada search bar. It's pretty typical search situation here. It lists you all your recent uh, collections endpoints you're connected to. You can bookmark things. It shows what people have shared with you. So yeah, this is a quick place to connect to the collections that you have access to. I am going to start with something called the Globus Training Sandbox. So I've connected to it in the past year. So I can either click on it here or just type it in. This is actually just, I'm gonna type in something wrong. Globus Training. Oh yeah, didn't put SAN in. This is just Globus personal connection that I have Globus Connect personal software that I've set up. So it's not a institutional share. So you can see you can navigate it fully. So I'm just playing around on this side. I'm showing you how to transfer files. So on this side, you would on the other side where you want to transfer files to, you would find another collection you want to go to. So let's try Globus tutorial collection. So this is actually just a collection that Globus, the organization, set up so you can test transferring files. Pretty much they use it for their demos as well, and yeah, says for demonstrating files can get deleted whenever they feel like it. So, but this is just for the sake of show and tell. So this is my personal, and this is the Globus one. And to transfer files, you very much simply just click on a file on this side, or you can actually go on the other side as well, but it makes more sense to go left and right for some people. And you would click on transfer sync. You make sure you are at the right directory on the other side. For example, I want to go to, let's say, share training. You would click transfer or sync to. But one other options that you would normally click on start and what would happen, but you probably want to go to transfer and timer options to pick some settings that you want to do. So you can label the transfer as test transfer. The reason that you do it is all the transfer that you do goes into a queue. So if you name it something, you might have, if you do a lot of transfer, you might want to name it, based on time or whatever you're doing. So you can know if one of them fail, then you have an idea of which one is failing. If you're only doing it once in a blue moon, might not be necessary. And these are a bunch of settings that you can set. Syncing files is only, so if you're picking a whole folder to transfer, when you pick sync, it will only transfer new or change files. Typical stuff, delete files and destinations that don't exist on the source. Blah, blah, blah. So transfer encryption, depending on the endpoint and collection, some of them might force your transfer to be encrypted. So like in this case, I've set up on my Globus training sandbox to force encryption. So you can't not choose it. And encryption, generally speaking, even if you don't have it checked, as Michael was saying, Globus will try to encrypt anyways. But if you're forcing encryption, if one of the server you're trying to connect to doesn't support encryption, it would just fail. Whereas if you don't have it checked, it might bypass it. And that really only applied to really old systems anyway, I think. Yeah, like old versions of something that doesn't support some, I don't know which version of TLS. Yeah. In any case, I'm gonna say probably doesn't hurt to encrypt, to check it. Skip files with error, blah, blah, blah. Fail on quota errors. If you don't check this, if you're out of disk space on whatever you're transferring to, it would keep trying and you get a bunch of errors. So it's something that sometimes I turn on if you're moving big files. Also, at the end, by default, Globus sends you an email if it's successful, if it fails, your transfer, any of that. So if you don't want a lot of emails in your inbox, you might want to disable the success one or failure one. It really depends on what you like. But if you're transferring a lot of files and you don't disable this, you will get like hundreds of messages in your mailbox. And another option, another thing, possibly a very useful function is the timer. You can set the transfer to happen at a certain time. So if you want to only transfer, if you want to transfer, at night when it's less traffic or whatever, you can also set it to repeat. So if you, oops, what did I do? If you have if you've set up some sort of machine, collection machine, like a microscope or something that's, recording data every day, you might want to set it every night to do a repeating daily or every hour to do a transfer. And then once you set it, Globus will repeat the sync, for example, sync and delete or whatever, every night or every day or every whatever minutes. So that's a quick way to set up a sync from maybe like a lab instrument to your HPC storage. So that is the one. So that's a quick. So maybe I'll do the transfer. See how it goes. I'm not doing it repeat. So let's get rid of that. I'm gonna disable this. Sure. Transfer, blah, blah, blah. So I did pick one. I'm gonna do this way, hopefully. Oh, then I pick a file. So you go start. So yeah, it says here it's successfully submitted. Doesn't mean that it's transferred. So if you go to, you can either click on here or you can click on activity. It will show. Oh, wait. Oh, that's that from today. Well, let's see what the error is. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe it doesn't let me do that big of a file. Yeah, there you go. Well, I shouldn't have picked the 2 gig one. Let's do something smaller. It's probably, I have not tested on the big one. I was picking the big one because it will show that it takes a while to it'll show the function of it continuing on. Even if you quit out of the browser, it'll keep transferring. But let's see. Maybe this one will let me do it. But it's a great way to show me what the errors are. Activity, event log. So it's is this still? Maybe this doesn't. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Maybe this one doesn't let me up. Okay, let me try a different one then. I have many collections I can transfer to. Let's try. my platform training here. What's in here? Here we go. We'll get this sorted out. Yeah, there are quota limitations based on whoever the service you're connecting to. Yeah, you can't just go and randomly update a 2 GB file if they don't let you. Is this working? Unless it's activities, Globus training, task queued, activity log, set started. So yeah, it's probably doing it. It should tell you here once it's started to working how fast and how or when it finishes how fast it's going. But it's doing it. Maybe we can go back to this once it's finished and show you that it's. So this is the functionality is that it does. I can log out of my server, log out of my website, and it'll still be transferring, provided that both of these are running. If this is on my laptop and I turn off the laptop, then it won't. It would resume the next time the laptop is coming. That's one of the options that maybe a retry option. Does it have that? Maybe not. I have to figure that one out. But activity. So I think it transfer is completed. So event log here is finished. Says transfer, shows some data on how fast it was. If you go back to the file manager here and you go refresh list, the 2 gig files now over here as well. So it's been copied over. So that's how basic transfer works. So one quick way to, or I'm just going to show you the Globus Connect Personal app. It's on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's something that you can install on your Windows. So I have it on my Windows PC here. It looks very similar on the Mac and on Linux. It's not as, I think there's a GUI like on TK or something for it. But anyways, I'll show you the Windows and Mac one. So it's just an application that you installed. And once it's installed, it's on your program trade here. The options aren't a lot. So if you go to the option tab, so you can set up which folder you want to share. So here I have like a desktop. I set it for the desktop. I have a bunch of files here. You want to set the home folder to default directory. So when you first log in, this is the directory that shows. So you probably want them to be the same, or if you have a bunch of them, pick the one that's your favorite. Otherwise, I think it defaults to just a C drive or something weird on or it won't show properly. That's pretty much the extent of the settings for this. You can set it to a Windows start. So yeah, if this is not running on your tray, you won't be able to access the files. So I'll show you here on the file manager. And here, when you first install it, you get to pick the name of what you call the collection. So here it's called BL Desktop, and you can search for it. And you can set it if it's private or if other people can access it. I've set it for private. So people can't even, so I think it's set for private. So yeah, if you try to search for it on your Globus, it won't show up because, it's private. So you probably, a lot of cases, you don't want people to be able to search for your collection name. So as you can see, it's the same as these files. And also, as Michael was mentioning, Globus doesn't host anything. If you give someone access to your files, it decided to go and click on something and delete it, you will know that eventually it will be deleted here. So that's it. It's like it's gone from your computer. There's no unless your computer is backed up or whatever, it won't. And I got a notice that the on my email that that was deleted. So yeah, don't be you don't want to be deleting things that you don't want to delete. Um, so the other thing I'll show you is that it's very limited on the options here, but actually a lot of the collection settings you actually change. I think under collections, if you go to my desktop here and added attributes, and this is where you can change the name of your collection if you don't like what you created initially. This is where you can pick to see if your personal collection is public or private. You can force encryption or not force encryption. You can change your default directory. You can add some of these. I'm not honestly entirely sure what. I guess you can give someone a message when they log in. I'm not sure. It's beyond the scope of my understanding for that. But yeah, like these are the important ones that I'm highlighting here, anyways. These two are the ones you want to change. And encryption one, people sometimes get confused because they're like, where do I change the names? And you keep looking at the app, you can't find it, but you have to do it on the web app itself. So I've shown that. I've shown that public, private. Let's go to maybe some quick file sharing. I would do. So yeah, file sharing is if you want to do file share between personal endpoints, you need a Globus Plus subscription, and Globus Plus subscription is a organizational one. You can't just get it for your own personal account. So UBC has one, and our process is that you have to submit a ticket to us and kind of give your reason for having a transferring file between two personal. But for most cases, if you want to transfer something from personal, meaning like from my desktop to like HPC or it's generally for us it's enabled. It really depends on the server you're connecting to. But for a UBC, generally speaking, people do not need a Globus Plus if they just want to transfer their files from their lab instrument to Sockeye or Chinook. So I'll do let's go back to the sandbox here. I'm doing this because it's easy, even though this is a personal collection because I have a Globus Plus, but it's very similar if you are on a compute in your compute node and if sharing is allowed. So you go to your folder you want to share. I'm going here. For example, if I want to share this folder, you click on sharing. By default, you need to create a guest collection. As you can see, this kind of displays what ones you have created already. So I'll start by doing let's create a new one. I'll pick here. So now I've created one, and I can add users that I want to share with. So share with user. So for example, I want to share with Michael. Hopefully this shows up. Nope. Maybe use email address is easier. I did see it. Here we go. Yeah, so you have to find the user. So yeah, it depends on user's name. Maybe easy to search, maybe not. But I think with their their email address, or whatever they or what they are logging in with might be easier. You might want to ask them what they're using with Globus. And in the past, you can add GitHub or Gmail as well. Basically, once you do it, they'll send them an email. You can pick if they want read or write permission. And then done. And if you go back to overview, after that you can see the way, or you can grant, yeah, or you can grant it by role. There's roles you can create as well. Oh, it's a guest. Oh yeah, yeah. Never mind. I think you can do roles if you are, yeah. I guess not on a personal, not on the on a personal collection. You can do it with like a subscription here. Should I? Let's see. Platform training. Yeah, that one doesn't have it either. Anyways, you can do it if the service you're connecting to or the endpoint you're connecting allows you to do it. Anyways, right now I just don't have ones that I can show that have that enabled. Um, quickly, yeah, I want to leave a bit of time for questions. So, just going to quickly mention Globus Flows is it's kind of beyond the scope of this session, but it lets you create kind of more complex working tasks in Globus. One thing you might want to do, the way you would probably want to start as a beginner or even just us, is that there are existing flows provided by Globus that you can use right away. So Globus is a grade 3 really popular ones, two-stage transfer. So it lets you transfer your files to an intermediate point. So in cases maybe you want to transfer a file from your computer to your object storage on your university and then transfer it back maybe to a different computer in the lab or something. Uh, you can do that. And basically, I'll show you here.
I know.
Okay.
Want to try?
So yeah, you would pick the source, intermediate point, destination. Well, yeah. So this is something that people do use. You can write your own flows. It's like in JSON. There's a big guide on it. I don't. If you just do a search, I'll maybe quickly. It is quite complicated, but it is things that you can do. There's documents on how to do it. And maybe I was gonna do a quick command line demo, but maybe I'll leave some time for the questioning. With the command line, I will say that a lot of what you want to do is doable on the web interface. For the command line, it's maybe if you want to do like a batch process. It's very similar. You basically, instead of connecting by clicking on things, you use commands like, Globus, transfer, and then list the path of your endpoints and such. But there is documents on that. It's a Python. You kind of install it on pip, and there's kind of documentation instructions on how to do a lot of the stuff that you would normally do in here. And again, I think it's very useful if you do want to write your own scripts to run it. But at the same time, we find that with the Globus Desk app, like with the timers, seems to do pretty well for a lot of people. They just want to transfer file every hour or every day. But with a script, you can set it to only transfer files that ends with like JPEG or something. You can not transfer everything. So there's little settings you can do. But that is the basics that I'm covering for the online demo. So 15 minutes maybe for some Q&A.